What's going on, all you Minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at some collected editions coming out from Marvel this week. So, let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these trade paperbacks. All of these trades are due out in the direct market on May 26th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. So we have a variety of things here. We have a Marvelverse, an anthology, trade paperbacks, the complete collections, and if you want to check out what this book looks like, my wonderful wife, the Astonishing Melanie, did an amazing overview of this last week, and I'll leave a link up above so you can check that out. All right, let's go ahead and get started with The Amazing Spider-Man here by Nick Spencer. So here we have volume 12. Wow, that's crazy. Of Nick Spencer's run on Amazing Spider-Man. And I say crazy because I really thought by now we would have had an OHC, but still no word. Just keep that in mind. These are only available in trade paperbacks. So not only do we have Nick Spencer still writing this, but we also have the return of a very popular, probably the most prolific Spider-Man artist in modern time, and that is Mark Bagley. I mean, he's not a new name to anybody that has been reading Spider-Man since the early 90s. He had a huge run on not just Amazing Spider-Man, but also Ultimate Spider-Man. And he is back again. So it's almost, it feels like coming back home when reading these. So all of this takes place after the events of Last Remains. So it's the storyline where Kindred reveals who he is. He's the one that's been pulling the strings behind all these things that are happening in Peter Parker's life. And I gotta be careful flipping through here because I don't want any of this to be spoiled. We also have the return of this guy right here, Martin Lee. But does that mean the Negative Man is back? What exactly does that mean? So there's a lot of things that happen here that play off of the last 50 plus issues of Nick Spencer's run. And speaking of 50 plus issues, this particular collection collects issues 56 through 60 of The Amazing Spider-Man, Nick Spencer's run. Love this shot right there. It's so good to have Bagley back. Now, Bagley's not the only artist in this book. We also have this gentleman back here, Marcelo Ferreira, supplying the artwork for the last couple of issues in this trade paperback. And just highlighting what his artwork looks like. Now, the ending of this particular volume, man, it put a smile on my face just because of what it could mean. And this is the way I've been reading them. I haven't been reading them monthly. I've been reading them through trade paperback. We already have a volume 14 solicited. Man, there's enough for an omnibus, just saying. Let's look in the back for some extras. We have some variant covers back here. The book retails for $15.99 and has 128 pages. I love this nice frame here. And then we have some internal artwork before it's inked and colored by Bagley. And then we have some sketches and the process of the artwork. And where else you can find the story of Spider-Man. Next up is Champions, Volume 1, Outlawed. I did an overview of the Miss Marvel book, and even though I wasn't lost, I knew something important happened, so the one shot of Outlawed is what happened, and you can find it in this collection here. So this is all written by Eve L. Ewing. Outlawed number 1 is drawn by Kim Jacinto, and then the Champions 1 through 5 is done by Simone DiMeo, doing the first 2 issues, and then Bob Quinn doing issues 3 through 5. And Simone DiMeo's artwork, oh my gosh, I wish they had stayed on the book. It's just gorgeous. So really quick, the premise of Outlawed is that the government is stepping in and saying, no more kid superheroes, unless there's also some loopholes like, oh yeah, unless they're a sidekick and they're being watched by somebody else. Almost feels like you have a license to drive and a permit. But anyway, that's the way this is being handled. They pass a law. It's called the Kamala Khan law because of what happened later on. And it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting take on something like the Mutant Registration Act or even the Civil War Act, the Superhero Registration Act. Because, I mean, kids are going to rebel. They're not going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll sign or I'll sign up. They also introduced the, what is it? It's Cradle. It's a place where superheroes can go and rehabilitate, which I find kind of ridiculous, but I get it, and the concept of it is there. So then we kick off with this series of the Champions, and here's what the artwork looks like. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about Eve Ewing. Now, I was not the biggest fan. Look at that, that's gorgeous. I was not the biggest fan of Ironheart. When Brian Michael Bendis was creating the character, to me, she read like a stereotypical teenager, and just not there wasn't anything unique about her that stood out. And then Eve Ewing, who I thought was related to Al Ewing, no relation at all, got the task to write the ongoing Ironheart series. Now, honestly, I didn't even read it because I thought, okay, well, she's a poet. The only reason she got this job is because she's a poet. Damn, was I wrong. Because her run on Ironheart made me a fan of Ironheart, and also made me think, I really wish Eve Ewing was writing a lot more Marvel books. So I'm glad to see her continue writing, and she's writing the Champions. She has an understanding and respect for the history of Marvel characters that have come in the past. And, oh man, like I would love to see her tackle the New Warriors, because she loves using them. She loves using Silhouette. She's used Bandit in the past. Here, there's a couple of cameos I don't want to spoil for anybody, but look at that artwork. It is gorgeous. And I'm not downplaying Bob Quinn's artwork in the back here, in the later issues. There is a reunion with Cyclops, because remember, he was one of the champions for a while. But this is a different Cyclops now. This is the Krakoa Cyclops. So this was a really fun series. It's one that I read cover to cover, because it's just, I really like her writing, and like I said, after reading this, I'm like, man, she really needs to tackle the New Warriors. Or we can just call them the Warriors. They're old enough. And I'm sure you probably saw, with an example here, is that sometimes the variants are on the opposite page or behind the standard covers. So let's look at the back here, if there's any extras. So there are some extras back here. And this is the Champion series in 2020, by the way. So this takes place after Mark Waid's series, after Jim Zub's series. So this is like the third Champion series. And some variants back here. By the way, the book retails for $17.99 and has 152 pages. Our next Marvelverse book is Shang-Chi, or Shang-Chi, depending on when you started reading or knowing about the character. And here is what the spine looks like, and then the back. These books are $9.99, and they are geared more towards the younger audience. Let me show you the size comparison to this Epic collection here. So it's bigger. Of course it's thicker, right? Because, I mean, there's a difference in a $39.99 book and a $9.99 book, but it's also the dimensions are longer and taller than these. So in the past, I've mentioned how the Marvelverse books are kind of an introduction to the character for new readers. So this is not, even though it's smaller scale and geared towards kids, it is geared towards anybody that doesn't really know these characters. So what we have here is Marvelverse Shang-Chi, and this collects the Wolverine First Class, number 9. Pretty interesting collection here, actually. Marvel Adventure Spider-Man number 2, Free Comic Book Day, the 2011 Comic Book Day one-shot, and Master of Kung Fu number 126, this one here, which that's pretty interesting to collect. And then The Legend of Shang-Chi number 1. So here's the Wolverine one, and I'll talk just a little bit about, so it's pretty much the Marvel characters interacting with the character of Shang-Chi. So here in this particular, let's look at the Free Comic Book Day one, because I like that story. Okay, so this one here, Spider-Man has lost his spider sense. So Peter Parker no longer has the ability to sense when danger is coming, so he looks towards this gentleman right here, the Master of Kung Fu, to train him in ways, to start using his other senses. So I really enjoy this story, and it's also because it's drawn by Humberto Ramos. And then we have this back here. So Master of Kung Fu 126. Now, what's interesting about this is two things. It's written by CM Punk, which I'm sure you saw. Number 2 is that this is 35 years after issue 125 of Master of Kung Fu. When Master of Kung Fu ended with issue 125, there was really no more issues after that, and then they decided to do this. This is part of the Marvel Legacy years, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have Alyssa Wong's issue back here. And this is probably most modern one, because this came out, I think, in 2021. Maybe it came out earlier this year. And it does show a fight with him and Lady Deathstrike. Now, let's look at the extras, because there were some variants. Here we go. There were some Master of Kung Fu variants. That's what I thought. The book has 120 pages, and like I said, retails for $9.99. And here's the part of the segment where I look at all the spines, and you all can pause and take a gander at what each one of these look like. But let's keep going. Wrapping up the Dawn of X anthology series is volume 16. So you have this beautiful piece of art there by Russell Dodderman. And you saw the spine, and here's the back. And of course, the most important part of the back is the actual contents that are collected in here. So you have Giant Size X-Men Storm number 1, X-Force 11 and 12, Excalibur 11 and 12, and X-Men number 12. $17.99. Parental advisory, probably because of those issues of X-Force in here. So I gotta be really careful when flipping through here, because all of this is leading into the X of Swords, or 10 of Swords. But here's your table of contents. Oh, I'm sorry, all your credits. And then we kick it off with Giant Size Storm number 1, which wraps up the Giant Size storylines from Phantom X, Magneto, Jean Grey. And it pretty much kicked off with the idea that Storm is dying. And for some reason, the brilliant minds in Krakoa cannot figure out exactly how it's happening or what to do to prevent her from dying. And without going into spoiler territory, you know that dying is different in Krakoa if you've been reading the series. So what exactly does that mean? This is written by Jonathan Hickman, and it has beautiful artwork by Russell Dodderman. Now, that was one of my favorite Giant Size issues, probably my favorite Phantom X issue that has come out since Morrison's run on New X-Men, was the Giant Size Phantom X. The book has 152 pages, and like I said, retails for $17.99. Let's look at the artwork in X-Force. So here are the issues of X-Force that I gotta be careful flipping through here, because all of this leads directly into the X of Swords era. And what they do here is wrap up a lot of the loose ends, mainly the story of Colossus and his brother Mikhail. So that's what all of this focuses on. But we also have, of course, the beloved return of all these characters, like Sage. I love that they're using her finally. And let's look at the issues of Excalibur. Now, when I did the overview of the X of Swords hardcover, one of the questions I was asked is, why didn't they include issue 12 of Excalibur? And I feel like issue 12 of Excalibur really wraps up the external storyline that's Tini Howard brought back in early issues of her run of Excalibur, and it really doesn't add or set the stage much for the X of Swords crossover. However, it is collected in here, this particular issue of Excalibur number 12. Now let's look in the back here for some extras. And you're probably asking yourself, and rightly so, Omar, where the hell is X-Men 12? You said it was collected back here. You didn't show us any of the artwork. Well, even back here they could get it wrong sometimes. X-Men 12 is not collected in here. It is collected in the X of Swords hardcover, which will eventually be a trade paperback later on. So even though it says X-Men 12, and even though I said X-Men 12, it's not in here. Believe me. Now that actually does set up the events of... That actually, to me, felt like a prelude. And those are the extras that we have back here. Now, before looking at this book, I do want to state that this is my copy. I did not get sent a copy of the reprint. So this is the first printing of Agent of Asgard, the complete collection. And it makes me happy that they reprinted a complete collection, because Marvel usually doesn't have a tendency to reprint complete collections. So that's something hopefully that they're going to start doing, because I've sent them a list of books that I know have been out of print, and whatever they decide to reprint would be up to them. So this all kicks off with the Marvel Point 1, just material from Marvel Point 1, mainly the Loki parts, and then collects Loki, Agent of Asgard 1 through 17, and Original Sin 5.1 to 5.5, which is the one that is co-written by Jason Aaron during the Original Sin part. So the story of Loki here, this is such a good story. Now, The Astonishing Melanie and I've skipped the intro because it kind of spoils something that happens towards the end of Gillen's run, and I don't want to spoil that for anybody. But the Astonishing Melanie and I have done a review of this book. It came out sometime last year and immediately went out of print. I'm not kidding. The book was gone within like 3 weeks. So for those of you that want to pick it up this time around, keep that in mind, that they don't, when they usually reprint these books, and I mean that because of Epics, they usually have a smaller print run than the initial print run. So I don't want anybody to miss out on it, and in case you wanted to get it, because for a while this book was going for well over $100 in the third-party market. So all of this takes place after the events of Loki, the Journey into Mystery series by Kieran Gillen, and the Young Avengers series by Kieran Gillen. So how do I talk about this without spoiling? Okay, Loki was different during that run, and he committed a lot of sins. And towards the end of Journey into Mystery, he committed what is known as the ultimate sin. So he is getting all these tasks to wipe away his sins from the All-Mothers. And each one is a different mission that he has to do. However, they haven't decided whether or not to forgive him for the ultimate sin that he committed towards the end of Journey into Mystery. And that's all I will say about that. I'm not kidding. This book is phenomenal. I loved it. This has 504 pages, and it makes me wish they had gone the oversized hardcover route. Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty one day, because just the gorgeous artwork that's in here deserves it. Not just Lee Bermejos, but also Simone Bianchi's artwork, because Simone Bianchi does some of the artwork in the original Sin storyline. So that's one thing that I think happens with every comic, though, is that they are kind of forced into some kind of crossover. Because it starts off great. The first 6 issues are nothing but Loki going on many different adventures. He teams up with L'Oreal. Actually, starts developing a relationship with L'Oreal. And that's, what's her name? Amora's younger sister. And then we get the original Sin, where there's a secret about Loki and Thor. And then we get into the X-axis. It's the crossover between the Avengers and the X-Men. So where the heroes are villains and the villains are hero, and realities are all warped. And then the last part of the run is the Last Days. And this is great. I really enjoyed it, especially the last issue. Just becomes really meta. Like I said, if you want more of an in-depth review, the Astonishing Melanie and I did that last year. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link above this video. But I just wanted to showcase what this beautiful artwork looks like, so you can be like, Omar's right, this should have been an oversized format. And we'll look at the extras. Sometimes the extras are back here, in between chapters. I always like that cover. I'm glad they went with the cover to issue number 17, though, for the trade. Now, let's look in the back here for extras. So we have cover sketches. Lots of those. Layouts. I like that. We go from sketches to layouts to hopefully pencils. No pencils. Just layouts. And then the series introduction to Loki. What does that mean? Oh, you can find out in the last arc. Which also features Doctor Doom. Yeah, this series was phenomenal. And last but certainly not least, at least for me, is Iron Man by Mike Grell, the complete collection. Hell yes. Oh man, I've been wanting to read this run. I only had a few issues. I think it was issue 55, 56, and then a couple of others in here. So I've not read this run. I just got it in a couple of weeks ago, and I sat down and started reading it. I love Mike Grell. Green Arrow, Shaman Tears, and I honestly forgot that he had written issues of Iron Man. So this book here retails for $39.99 and has 512 pages and collects Iron Man 50 through 69. So let's talk about that first. Iron Man 50 through 69. One thing to keep in mind is there's different volume numbers for Marvel whenever they revamp a series. So the original Iron Man that ended with the young Tony Stark during Onslaught, that's volume 1. Volume 2 is the Jim Lee, Whilce Portacio Iron Man from the Heroes Reborn era. That's volume 2. Then when the Heroes Return, the Sean Chen and the Kurt Busiek run, that is known as Volume 3. So that first omnibus, if you have it, the Sean Chen and Kurt Busiek omnibus, that kicks off Volume 3, and then that leads into the Joe Quesada run. So this takes place immediately, or not immediately. Yeah, it does. This is issue number 50, so it does take place immediately after the Iron Man. What was it, the Man in the Iron Mask, or the Mask in the Iron Man? Something like that. It was quirky. It had a quirky title. But that's when this takes place. So none of this has ever been collected in any kind of collected edition, whether it was an omnibus or trade paperbacks. This is the first time we're seeing his run, Mike Grell's run, collected in this format. So it's a big book, 512 pages. By now, Tony Stark's developed a relationship with a new lady. What is her name? Rumiko? That was her name. And we also have him, Friday shows up here, which is his AI. And we have the artwork mainly by Michael Ryan, who love his art. It's great. We also have, here's a couple things I wanted, let me see if I can find the issue 55. I think that's the one. Yes, right here. So this is when my friend Dennis was trying to get me to buy comics again. I'm like, dude, I'm done. I'll try to read your new X-Men. And he knows how much of a sucker I am for anime and manga. And this cover here is drawn by Kia Asamiya, who's the artist and the writer of Silent Mobius, one of my favorite series, and also Dark Angel. But when I saw that, I'm like, oh, dude, don't tell me Kia Asamiya is drawing American comics now. Of course, he didn't do the internal artwork. But I had this issue, and then I had the next issue, issue 56, and then a couple others from the back. I didn't have very many, so like I said, I hadn't read the series until I got it a couple of weeks ago. But what I didn't know at the time is that issue 56 is one of the earliest pieces of art. By the way, Mike Grell does some of the artwork, and we'll look more at that here in a second with a particular storyline. But one of the things that, yeah, this is an anniversary, issue 55. Okay, this issue right here, issue 56, is drawn by Ivan Reis, who went on to do Green Lantern, who went on to do Blackest Night, who went on to do Justice League. Just he has blown up since then, and here is some of his earlier artwork, at least to me. And you can kind of tell in his faces that it is him. But for the most part, all of this is done by Michael Ryan, who to me is a stellar artist. And let me show you the Mike Grell. Yeah, this storyline right here, the In Shining Iron, is when Iron Man, of course, there's time travel involved, goes back to this time. I'll tell you what they find. They find a skull inside of an Iron Man helmet. So they start freaking out that Iron Man is dead in the past. Look at that cliffhanger. That's a hell of a cliffhanger. That means that Iron Man died in the past. How can this be? All right, you can find out for yourself how that story wraps up. Now, by the end of... Oh, there's the crossover here with Jeff Johns, Avengers, and also, what was it? I think it was Thor? Yeah, Dan Jurgens' Thor. Now, it's just the Iron Man issue that's collected in here with artwork by Alan Davis. The Standoff, that's what it was called, Avengers Standoff. And then, let's see, Mike Grell ends up leaving the book, and then Robin Laws starts writing it. And eventually Robin Laws becomes the ongoing writer of the book. And this volume 3 of Iron Man, I think lasted all the way up to issues 88 or 89 during Avengers Disassembled before he got kickstarted again with Warren Ellis as the Extremist. Maybe I should do an Iron Man reading order sometime this summer. Let's look in the back here for some extras. Not very many extras, just some uncolored pages. And of course censoring the final page of the final issue in here, issue number 69. I hate to spoil that for anybody that hasn't read it. And then this page here from Alan Davis's run. Again, the book retails for $39.99, has 512 pages, and that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only only for US customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these trades. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up. If you're gonna get the reprint of the complete collection of Loki, if you love complete collections, these big thick books, you're gonna pick up the Iron Man by Mike Grell, or if you're wrapping up your Dawn of X anthologies. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We put out videos every day. More importantly, all of you, stay healthy, stay safe, much love.